Hi, my name is Cheryl Stevenson. I'm 60 years old. In July of 2005, at age 47, I was diagnosed with EOAD, early onset Alzheimer's disease. But because of my age, the neurologist suggested that I get a second opinion. A few months later, I went to see a second neurologist. He changed my diagnosis to MCI, mild cognitive impairment. In early 2014, I saw a third neurologist. He sent me for a neuropsych evaluation. In September 2014, I got the results of this testing and it confirmed the MCI diagnosis. MCI means that I don't have dementia, but that my brain doesn't function like other people my own age. I have problems with my short-term memory, comprehension, and other things related to my cognition. MCI doesn't always progress to Alzheimer's, so I actually keep this diagnosis indefinitely. In this video, I'm going to discuss what it is like for me when I'm in the fog. Because I live with a memory impairment, I will be using a typed script to help me keep on task because I would like this video to flow well. I will be using some data that I've written over the years in a journal, and then it was made into a blog. These are some examples of what I refer to as fog. On this particular day, I went shopping at Walmart alone. I was standing down the cleaning products aisle. I was searching for a bathroom cleaner. I found the cleaner and put it in my shopping cart. I suddenly became confused. Then it felt like I had spaced out, and it was very scary for me. Suddenly, I felt as though I was frozen in time, and I couldn't move or speak. I remember seeing some people around me. It felt as though I was in a tunnel, unable to respond to the world around me. If I had been able to do so, I think that I would have asked someone for help. I was very aware that this was happening, and I was alone in the store. While this was happening to me, it seemed like I could see other people near me, but they were kind of blurry. This could have lasted for several minutes, or perhaps it was even less than a minute. At first, I think that it scared me, but I just tried to stay calm until it passed. I'm not really sure how long it lasted, but I was glad when it did. Once I was able to feel somewhat normal and I was out of the tunnel, it took a few minutes for me to get my bearings, such as realize where I was, which way I needed to go down the aisle in order to head towards the register. I was a little confused, but I was able to figure it out, check out with my items that I came shopping for, and drove home. And after this happened, I was fine. But I was still a little shaken by this experience. This was so scary for me. I don't remember this happening before, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen again. Another day that I journaled. Clarity seems to have been replaced by confusion. I struggle with trying to understand even the simplest things. This is not happening every minute, but rather chunks of my day. I feel as though I'm here, but I'm not. I guess I'm feeling a little lost. When the clouds roll in, it makes me fearful, afraid that the clarity won't return soon, afraid to face a new normal that is somehow less than I was before I entered the fog. Another time was when I was working as a cashier at Walmart. I saw several people waiting in my line for me to wait on them, and I saw a woman who was smiling at me, so I assumed that we knew each other. But at this moment, I couldn't think of who she was. Then all of a sudden, I saw her husband, and I made the connection in my brain, and I remembered who he was and who she was, what their names were, and how I knew them. This is a couple who I've known for over 30 years, and mostly when my memory is affected by the MCI, it is short term. but this was long term. One weekend, I seem to have lost some details of my weekend. I don't even know if I remember going to sleep or if I just assume that it was nighttime, so I went to bed. I remember all the days around it, such as Thursday and Saturday and Sunday. But Friday, I don't really remember. Another time that I journaled. Most of the time when my boyfriend and I are talking and I'm having problems with my comprehension, I will let him know that I don't understand what he is saying. He will usually explain it in a different way in order to help me understand. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. There are other times when all I will need to understand something is some extra time to process the words in my brain. My boyfriend and I were sitting on my couch. I hugged him and happily announced, "I'm here." He said, "That's great, but where have you been?" I said that I had no clue, but I'm just so glad to be back. Later I described it as being here, but not really being here. I guess that I was in the fog and I hadn't realized it. I tried to explain the fog to him. When I come out of the fog, I don't think it is like turning on a light switch, because it doesn't seem to happen like that. It is more of a gradual process for me to get back to myself. He said that recently when we were face to face talking about something, he said that my eyes didn't look right. It was as though I was not recognizing him, almost staring right through him. When he asked me if I knew who he was, I remember answering yes, but now I'm not so sure about my response. I would like to describe this fog that I was in like this. It is as though I'm not in the same world as people around me, like I'm on the outside looking in. It is very difficult for me to interact with people. I asked him if this was the first time that he thought that I didn't recognize him, and he said yes. Another day that I journaled. I was with my boyfriend and things became a bit foggy for me. It started with me not being able to follow conversations with my boyfriend. Then later, we were just sitting on the couch, and things just seemed weird to me. I got really quiet, and he probably just thought that I was tired. One part of me knew him and remembered that we had been sitting here before, yet another part of me was unsure. I tried to explain this to him. I told him that when this happens to me, I feel so disconnected from him. I told him that sometimes when I become very quiet, that I'm not tired, but rather there is something wrong. I told him that there are times when I will try to hide my symptoms from him. And he asked me why I would do that. I said that I really didn't know the answer to this. I told him that sometimes I just want to hold out my hands and try to catch the words before they are lost forever. Sometimes when I'm in the fog, I can feel confused, angry, and helpless. Another day that I journaled. I come home from work and I did some laundry. I took a bra out of the washer to hang it up on a hanger and put it on my shower curtain rod to dry. I had to look at it quite a few times. It was as if I didn't recognize it as being mine. I live alone, so it can only be mine. I think that this happened because I recently had gone shopping to buy some new bras. So my brain is not remembering the old bras my brain is only remembering the old bras and not the new ones. My long-term memory is usually pretty good, but it is my short-term memory that is affected the most. Sometimes I can forget what is being said to me from one moment to the next. One day I can recognize a new item that I bought. The next time I can't. It is very random. Another time I journaled. I drove to my boyfriend's place, and all of a sudden I just wasn't feeling right. Not sick, just something just didn't seem right. We were having a good day up until then, And sometime later that afternoon is when things changed for me. Later he was talking to me and I was not responding. Confused, scared, and lost was how I was feeling. Some strange reason I tried to hide it from him, but he still thought that something was not right. I was not responding to him talking to me, and I was looking at him very strange. He told me that I was acting a little strange, and he asked if I was okay. I lied and said that I was okay, even though I wasn't. I'm usually very honest. This is not like me at all. In reality, I'm not lying on purpose. I am unable to explain to him what is happening. The heavy fog seemed to have invaded my brain. He asked me for a kiss, and I didn't even know what the words meant. The fog just seemed to be getting thicker by the minute. During this time, I'm feeling very strange, and I know that something just isn't right. But nothing prepared me for what was happening now. The very dark clouds seemed to be floating in. I was very aware that I didn't know where I was, and I didn't recognize him. I know that these foggy times happen, but I think that I have always known who he is. I could be wrong because I do have a memory impairment. And this happened maybe about 3 years after we had been dating. I almost feel like running outside and yelling my name, desperate to find me, the me who doesn't feel lost and the me who knows where I am and who I'm with. It is as if I am aware that I know that I should know who he is and where we are, but it is just not registering in my brain. For now, he is a stranger to me, and this scares me. I didn't even know how long this lasted, but it just seemed like an eternity when it is happening to me. Sometime later, I was back to myself. No cloud, no fog, no clouds. Everything seemed clear to me, and I was just so thankful. He and I talked about the fog, and he said that I looked lost, and I had a blank stare on my face. He said that during this fog, he told me his name, and he wasn't sure that I knew who he was. I told him that I didn't know where I was or who he was when I was in the fog. And I described the fog like this to him. I'm in a long tunnel and I can't navigate my way through it. I'm stuck. My boyfriend and I talked, and he told me that he notices the fog at least once a month. And that is only when we are together. And I know it happens when I'm alone at my apartment or at one of my jobs, because I work 2 jobs. All I know is during this fog, I was in a very dark place. Even if this happens for a short time, it is still very upsetting for me. Sometimes if the fog is not as thick, I can explain to someone what is happening to me. We both know that I have had the fog before. Somehow this time it was different. I think that this was the first time that I didn't know who he was. A short time later, when I was feeling okay, I drove back to my place. After I got home, I jotted down some notes about what happened in our conversation on the phone the next day. Otherwise, these words would have been lost forever. My boyfriend and I have had several conversations about that evening that was very difficult for both of us. He has talked about his concern with the fog happening when I'm driving. So far that hasn't happened, and I hope and pray that it doesn't happen. I'm not sure what would happen if it did occur while I was driving. Would I be able to pull over to the side of the road, perhaps call him, or just sit and wait for it to pass? I'm not really sure that I would be able to do this. When I'm in the fog, I have great difficulty interacting with someone or figuring something out. I would probably just continue driving, but I would probably get lost. I have told him that if the fog happens when I'm driving, I will need to talk to my neurologist, and we will need to make the best decision to keep me safe. One of the things that I think might help me when I'm in the fog is listening to my iPod. He and I have discussed this, and if he is with me and the fog rolls in, he'll get my iPod, put the music on and put the headphones on my head, and we will wait for the fog to disappear. There's nothing I can do to make it not happen. There's nothing I can do to make the fog disappear any quicker. It's just a waiting game. He and I are trying to problem solve to find a way to keep me calm and relaxed during this time. Music has always done that for me. Another day that I journaled. Throughout the day, things were confusing for me. I kept wanting to shake my head in hopes of clearing out the fog, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Luckily, the fog didn't last that long. Another day, I was feeling afraid. I was home in my apartment with my boyfriend. We were sitting on the couch watching a movie. I didn't tell him how I was feeling. The next day, I called him on the phone and told him how I had been feeling. He said that he knew something was wrong because he could see the frightened look on my face. He asked me if I remembered him asking me if I was okay, and I said no. I don't think that I asked him what my reply had been. Sometimes I will isolate myself, not wanting him to know what is happening to me. There are those times when the fog is very thick. During these times, I'm unable to tell someone what is happening to me. During the fog, I can become very quiet and distant, or I can become clingy. I seem to feel more grounded when I'm home in my place, rather than spending time somewhere else. Sometimes I feel as though my brain is like a jigsaw puzzle, with lots of missing pieces. For me, sometimes I can feel disconnected from people. I'm constantly forgetting things, so there are gaps in my relationships with anybody. There are memories that my family and friends have that I no longer have. And this is something that I wrote during some fog. Here I am lying in bed, desperate to fall asleep. The darkness, quietness, and stillness of the night somehow seems to frighten me. When will these feelings pass so I may sleep? I'm not sure if I ever remember feeling this way before. Silent tears stream slowly down my cheek and onto my pillow. I do not know why I'm feeling this way. There is no explanation for how I'm feeling, or if there is, the words don't make sense to me. Perhaps I'm unsure of where I am. It all just seems so confusing for me. Perhaps I will sleep soon. I hope that when I awake, all will be normal for me again. I hate feeling this way. During this time, it was in the evening and I was getting ready to go to bed, and I was alone in my apartment. Picture this. Imagine getting ready for bed and you open your bureau drawer. You see different nightgowns and you find one that you want to wear. Problem is, this nightgown doesn't look familiar to you. This happened to me the other night. It is as if you are looking at another person's drawer because you are wondering, whose things are these? The feeling of not recognizing your own nightgown, yet you know it must be yours. It is a very strange feeling and one that I wish I didn't have. When I put the nightgown on, I looked at myself in a full-length mirror in my bedroom, hoping to recognize the nightgown, but it just was not familiar to me. I did decide to wear this particular nightgown to bed. I think that by the time I woke up the next morning, it was a little familiar to me. About 4 months ago, I was talking to my 35-year-old daughter on the phone. I said that I hadn't seen her in a while and I'd like to see her. She said, "Mom, we talked about this the last time we talked on the phone, and I told you to call me and we would meet." I told her that I forgot the details of the last conversation we had, and even when that was. I told her to let me know what day and time works for her, because I'm not working and she is. For some reason, I became quiet and she asked me what was wrong. I told her that I didn't understand what she was saying, and she said, "Mom, just ask me, and I'll help you to understand." I told her that this was one of those times that I didn't know how to explain what the problem was. She said that since she works Monday through Friday and has weekends off, the weekend would work for her. I told her that Sunday would work best for me. I told her to call me and let me know when she would like to get together. She said, "Mom, how about this Sunday?" And I said that would be fine. She said that we could meet for breakfast, and I told her to pick a time, and I confirmed where we should meet and repeated the time she gave me. I told her that I needed to write it down so that I wouldn't forget. I continue to try to educate my children on what it is like for me to live with a memory impairment. It is not usually a planned conversation, but something that happens due to some problems with my cognition, such as tonight's phone call with my daughter. I'm not really sure when or if my 3 children, ages 35, 31, and 27, will ever really understand. Now I want to explain something else to you. With me, I have different degrees of fog. First fog I will describe as the thin fog, and it is when I can function fairly well. And I probably don't realize that sometimes the things aren't quite right until I have trouble remembering something. When I used to work during the thin fog, I could usually just get through it without anyone even knowing something was wrong. But when it is much thicker, it is much more obvious, and I'm probably not functioning well at all. The thin fog I can be in and out of for a day or so, and then go back to my normal. During the thin fog, I'm just going about my day, just having a few problems with my memory from time to time, but it's not a big deal. Medium fog. I'm more aware of it, and I might be struggling with recognizing people. Medium fog is lasting much longer and happening more frequently. Sometimes the fog can make me feel like I'm on the outside looking in at my life. This is a very weird feeling. Medium fog can impact my life a little more than the thin fog. And conversations with people are becoming a challenge. And it might help me to notice that I'm in the fog. The thick fog. When I'm in the thick fog, I'm not able to do much. Most of the time, communication is difficult, sometimes impossible. I'm usually very aware that I'm in the thick fog, and I just try to stay calm. I will tell myself that everything will be okay. If I'm home while this is happening, I'm just sitting on my couch, waiting for the fog to pass. After I come out of the fog, I'm usually able to talk about what was happening to me. I can usually journal about it soon afterwards, but if I wait too long to write about it, the words are lost forever. When the heavy fog rolls in, and it can last from only a couple minutes to much longer, it is as if there is a thin see-through wall separating me from the world around me. If someone is with me, I'm usually aware that they are there, but communication is very limited, if at all. Sometimes when I'm in the thick fog, I might not recognize where I am or who I'm with. The fog can be very scary, especially the thick fog. The best thing for me to do is to try to relax. Listening to music will usually help me to relax. The thick fog makes everything other than breathing much more difficult for me. Because I live with a memory impairment called cognitive impairment, MCI, I have experienced the fog more times than I would have liked to. My ex-boyfriend once described the fog like this: my eyes are glassy and I'm staring into space. I'm sitting on the couch next to him, yet we are miles apart. I would say that this would have been the thick fog. Even though there have been many times throughout these, I guess, 9 or 10 years during the fog that I didn't know who my friends were, who my ex-boyfriend was, it has never happened with my children. I have always known who they are. I could always say their names, recognize them. I always know who my 3 children are. One last thing on the video I wanted to talk about was caregiver tips. If you're a caregiver for someone who has a memory impairment, and if you notice that they might be in the fog, try to find something that will help your loved one to relax until it passes. It might pass slowly, or it might take a lot longer, but there is no way of knowing. Patients can get very emotional and sometimes cry. I describe those as meltdowns. Your loved one might become angry and or frightened because they probably don't understand what is happening to them. Just know that during this time, your loved one might not know who you are or where they are. Use a calm, soothing voice, perhaps a little less volume, will help them to relax. Let your loved one know that you love them and that you are there for them, and that they are safe. For me, listening to my iPod can help me to relax. Thank you for watching my video. Please share it. I hope that it helps somebody. Thank you.